Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast, and I am your host Vanessa for this journey. We're going to be challenging some stereotypes, shattering glass ceilings, really looking at what it takes to live richly and to design a business that's going to support the life that you really want to be living. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips, tools, and strategies along the way, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey. Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. I'm excited to be here with you today. Listen, there is no doubt that you have heard the saying, work smarter, not harder. But what does that really mean? And are you doing it? And how can you actually work smarter? Because I see this coming up an awful lot. I hear it an awful lot, and there's a lot of confusion around it. And before we even get into some of the how-tos and the tips around that, one of probably the biggest pain points I hear from women that don't want to grow is that they're already overwhelmed. They're doing all the things. They're the biggest bottleneck in their business. They're, working too many hours. They feel like everything is dependent on them. And so the idea of growth in of itself just feels completely overwhelming. There's no time to really step back, reassess, and re-strategize about what to do. And this really is the place where, frankly, we've got to create some space first, and we have to start to define what does working smarter, not harder, actually look like. Because I get it. Perhaps nobody's a big term, but I don't think my listeners actually want to be working longer and longer hours, sacrificing their families, sacrificing their personal well-being, feeling more stressed, getting up in the night, writing notes on journals or solving problems at 3:00 in the morning because all of a sudden those thoughts come to them. I don't think anybody wants to sign up for that in terms of business growth. And it's just not sustainable. So I want to start to think about some of the pieces that come together when I talk about working smarter, not harder. Now, the first one is honestly going to be really getting clear on who your ideal champagne clients are. And the reason being, champagne clients or your clients are the lifeblood to any business and every business. And if you have a service-based business, the likelihood is you and your team are working a lot of hours to service those clients. And for me, it really makes sense that you have the best fit clients. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the details here about what that entails. I've covered that in previous episodes, and you can Google it and you can find it. But really defining your best fit client, your champagne clients, the problems you love to solve, the people that you love to serve, and frankly, you'd love your business filled with them, is absolutely key to working smarter. Secondly, the reason that is a smart move and not a let me just work harder move is oftentimes we find that our champagne clients will take bigger services with us, right? They might start in a place, but then we work with them over a longer period of time. So the lifetime value of those champagne clients is typically going to be far, far higher than your beer clients. So it means that actually getting to your revenue goals is easier. And frankly, it's more enjoyable because you're working with the people that you love to serve, right? You can command higher fees. They will stay with you longer. They will refer other champagne clients to you. So now you can actually work with less clients as you are building your firms or your businesses. And we can quickly run the math to see that you can potentially even be working with less clients than previously and even becoming more profitable and hitting higher revenue goals, right? This is smarter, not harder. And I always say it's easier to sell, frankly, a $10,000 program to one person than it is to find 10 people to sell a $1,000 program to, or 20 people to solve $500 programs too, right? There's a lot of transactional costs. So this is a huge part of working smarter. And it starts with those clients and looking at your pricing strategy. I would say secondly is to also look at now systems. where are places where you are doing things repetitively? We all have them. And honestly, you want to start with some of those things that really happen on a daily, like very, very regular basis that you can build systems around. And systems are either we have some automation and tools that can do that work, or we have systems that we are hiring somebody for. We're building out what we call SOPs, standard operation procedures, for how those repetitive tasks are done so that they can be easily delegated. So we're either delegating to automation or we're delegating to a person. And frankly, in the day that, we're all operating, many times it's both, right? But again, I'll give you examples of this. I mean, a very simple example that we have used for years is something like a scheduling tool. If you are not using a scheduling tool to send to clients, that is, you are really working harder. If you are still manually booking all of these things and having to follow up with different emails and everything with clients, right? Becomes a lot of hard work. So you want to look at where are those things that you can build really repeatable processes, and then ideally you can delegate and outsource them. And they will be done to your standards. Because again, this is often that piece around the working smarter, not harder, is I get it. You don't want the client quality to suffer. You probably trust yourself, right, to be able to deliver a high quality product or service to your clients. But here's what I also know, because A, this has happened to me many times, several times in my business, and B, I hear it from clients. When you reach that level where you are maxed out and you're maxed out with you and your current team and or resources, client quality will suffer. There's no way it doesn't. I had one of my beloved clients recently. She said to me, we're actually in the process of hiring. She's going to be hiring probably 3 people in the next quarter. We've worked out the strategy for how it's going to be streamlined and it's not going to be so overwhelming, but she's gone through phenomenal growth. And when I said to her, hey, what's one of the best things, when they're in place and they're up and running, what's going to be so good about this? She said to me, Vanessa, what's going to be so good about this is I will no longer be sending emails to clients apologizing for something that fell through the cracks, right? These are the real conversations that happen behind the scenes. Things do fall between the cracks. You're only human and we can't remember them all. So that's going to be so important in terms of specifying what are those standards, right? What's the quality of service that you want? You must have, it's non-negotiable for your business so that that can also be communicated when you delegate, right? And when you outsource and when you build those systems. So if, for example, if you believe that every single client should have a level of responsiveness within 4 hours, say, sometimes it's really quick. And depending on the business, it really does need to be a short turnaround on certain things. Let's imagine your standard is 4 hours. Then that is what needs to be built in when you are training somebody, right? So that the system and that training actually supports that. And you know that your standard and your way of doing things is going to follow through. Again, this is about working smarter, right? Not harder. Also looking at parts of processes. So this is a concept that, again, clients often say, Vanessa, thanks for that reminder. I absolutely love this. I love this way of thinking about growing my business because I get it. When we have done everything in our business for all the behind the scenes, all of the, selling, marketing, wearing all of the hats, serving the clients, A to Z, offboarding them. A, we know typically how to do every part of the business. And B, it can be hard to let go. We might feel like we're losing control. And C, back to that quality control as well, right? We just worry that client service is going to suffer. And what I've noticed is that people tend to hold on. They're like, no, I can't delegate and I'm doing all these things. But I want you thinking as if you are the surgeon in your business. And there are certain things that only you as the surgeon can do. And it is your expertise. It's what brings in the revenue. It's that zone of genius that, again, we've talked about in other podcasts that only you can do. And it can't be outsourced. And then we start to think about all the other things that have to happen. And if I stick with the metaphor of surgery, all of the things that happen prior to surgery that you don't need to be involved in. But you have to tee them all up and explain your standards and what the process is and what the outcomes are so that other people can deliver those pieces. And then you come in and do what only you can do. So we start to look at that with our clients, right? It's really breaking down workflows and work processes to say, actually, are you the person? Are you the person that needs to have that first intake call or that first discovery call with a client? Are you the person that needs to be onboarding them? Are you the person that needs to be taking the payments, sending out the contracts, the service agreements, all of these things, right? Are you the person that actually needs to follow up after meetings with clients? Probably not. But could you outsource that to somebody else so that they can do it, right? Are you the person that needs to do all the paperwork, all of the filing, all of the printing out, whatever those things are, right? Sometimes it's even the creative design of things like the first drafts, the second drafts. The chances are when you start to really think about this through the lens of you being that expert surgeon and the things that only you can do, you will start to see so many parts of a workflow and a process that you don't need to be involved in. And chances are somebody else will actually do it more efficiently than you, especially when there's a good process in place, right? And the system is built to support that. So again, right, these are other examples of working smarter, not harder. I think the last thing I want to say on this today as well is we can really look at this through the lens of the financials and the money. Is when we look at what your time is really worth in terms of everything that you do in the business, in terms of the annual revenues that you generate for the whole business. And if you were to divide that up, right, by the amount of hours that you work on any given day, week, month in the year, you're going to come out to what your time is currently really worth. Now, here's the thing. The more hours you're working, like when you're working high hours and your revenues are lower than you want them to be, you will find that that hour is not worth as much as you possibly want it to be or thought it was. And it can be really sobering and frankly humbling to calculate that number. I really encourage you though to do it. Because working smarter, not harder, means we actually start to create leverage whereby your hours are actually worth more. And this is when you're working in your zone of genius. You're doing only the tasks that you can do. You are delegating, outsourcing, finding somebody else to do those things that, frankly, you can pay them considerably less than what you would need to be paid yourself. And I get it. It's a process and it's at that process of letting go. But once you start to see that very, very clearly through that financial lens, you'll start to probably connect the dots as to why you are the biggest bottleneck in the business. And you are the reason that you're also blocking those revenues and more profitability. So again, some suggestions here, right? Today as some frameworks as to what does it mean to actually work smarter, not harder? Because it's not about putting in more hours. It's about developing systems, automation, procedures, workflows, right? So that your business starts to operate like a well-oiled machine and you've got frameworks and ways of working and standards so that other people can follow them. Is it enough to just design those once and hand them off and expect them to happen? No, but I can tell you it's a really fantastic starting point. And then these become powerful conversations that we have with team members so that we're developing them, right? To help them achieve our vision, but also achieve it in the standards and the processes that we want to see happening in our business. So as always, superstars, I love sharing these really, really important tips with you. Please like, share, or comment what resonated the most with you. What would you love to hear more of as well? Can't wait to catch you on the next episode.